That's okay. But you're doing
Thanks.
great things. I can see that, like, in your face as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all my clothes are too loose. I haven't been shopping, so everything's too big for me.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good
it's better
problem.
than everything being too small for me.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yes, I'll deal with that one any day.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. And, how's everything been going?
Mostly good. I've actually I'm actually a bit worried at the moment because starting work again in a more normal setting with everything kind of going back to full on. Um, I'm just worried I'll stop making time for me, that I
Mhm,
won't have the time to make. Because for me, that was, I think, what really helped was having more time.
mhm.
But yeah, so I'm always really stressed at the beginning of the school year and really nervous and really anxious. And that always makes it harder to avoid the emotional eating. And my uncle died on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I know I haven't been eating right this weekend, but I won't tell everybody else all of that. We'll just talk about when it's going good. No, we'll talk about everything. We'll talk about when it's going bad.
Yeah, that's
I've
very
had more good than bad.
good.
And the bad isn't as bad as it used to be.
Mhm.
So bad now and bad then, it's like I might go and eat, you know, a couple of, Freddo frogs, not
Yeah.
a block of chocolate. So
Mm, it's good.
yeah, my measure of bad is better,
Mhm.
I think. But yeah, I'm a bit nervous. I don't feel like I'm kind of the person to, sh-
Are you
speak
serious?
to
How
everyone about
how much weight have you lost?
27 kilos.
It's
But it
quite a
still doesn't feel like I don't feel like I'm a role model though. It's like,
you are. You
okay,
you've you've lost weight, you've done it in a good way, a sustainable way, um, and yeah, and you've done great, and you did everything that you said you were gonna do. We talked on the phone. I remember how
yeah,
scared you were and how, yeah,
because I've always failed before.
yeah,
Every other time I've failed.
yeah.
So
But this time you learned,
something finally clicked.
yeah, it all clicked together. And then, yeah, and all you needed was a little bit of guidance, a little bit of support, and
A
yeah,
lot of accountability.
yeah,
And even when I'm not writing up my check-ins, I'm actually, in a way, I'm doing them still because I know I still need to do them. I'm thinking about what have I done this week?
mhm,
What did work this week? Gosh, I don't want to do that again tomorrow. What am I going to do differently? Um, yeah, I think I'm definitely less inclined to go, oh, well, I've stuffed up. So that's it this week, this month, this year is a write off. I'm more
yeah,
likely to go, all right, stop now.
yeah,
you know, yes, you've just eaten chocolate, but don't eat anymore.
yeah, yeah, 100%. That's good. That's good.
That
Well,
said, I still want it. And I still want takeaway and I still want all those nice things. But it's easier not to.
yeah. So I guess like this time around, like what made it different from the other times? You said, you failed in the past, and this time you've gotten great results, and we can see we've still got a way to go for you to get to your another 12 to 13 kilos down to get you to your next goal. But why has it been different this time, do you think, than the other times?
Um, it's a little bit hard to pinpoint. I know that I have had the nutritional advice before.
Hmm.
Not exactly the same nutritional advice, but not too dissimilar. You know, cut your sugar, um, cut your carbs, get enough protein, make sure you're getting enough calories, not starving yourself. I've known those things before. Um, I've known that I needed accountability, someone to talk to about it before.
Hmm.
Um, I've known I need to exercise before, and approximately how much. I think for me, I needed to be in the right headspace to put it all together and do it.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the thing that is the most different for me is that I wouldn't say I'm not ashamed of where I was anymore, but I was less ashamed than I was wanting to change,
Yeah.
because I would hide the fact that I was trying to diet and lose weight, because what if I failed? I didn't want to be judged for that.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't want to tell anyone how much I weighed.
Mm.
120 was, it sounded terrible to me. Um, it sounded like a shameful number, and like I felt like people would judge me if they knew.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't quite know what clicked, but after we'd talked, wouldn't have been much after our first talk, I turned around and confronted someone at work with with my numbers, with my reality, when
Mhm.
they were pressuring me to eat exactly what I wanted to eat and was trying not to want to eat and trying not to take in the
Mhm.
staff room. Um, and as embarrassed as I was, they were even more embarrassed to hear. Not They weren't ashamed of me. They didn't look at me disgusted. They looked disgusted with themselves
Mhm.
for putting me in that position.
Yeah.
That makes any sense.
Mhm.
And I won't say that person doesn't occasionally still see if they can convince me to have something. But when I say no the first time, they say, "Oh, you're good.
Mhm.
Oh, you're so good. I can't do that." Instead of pushing, 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 probably because they're afraid I'll throw my numbers at them again and embarrass. Um, but yeah, this particular colleague of mine, this male colleague, had no idea that I weighed more than him.
Yeah.
Um, Sorry about the cat.
That's okay. I like
I think
animals.
I think he was really embarrassed at that point, and I think he actually put it in perspective. His wife has weight problems,
Mhm.
and I think he put it in perspective of how she would have felt if she'd had to say that to someone to get them off their
Yeah.
back.
Mhm.
Um, and the fact that nobody, shunned me, condemned me, laughed at me, that made it easier the next time around
Mhm.
when I had to be upfront and honest. And I guess I'd always thought I was honest
Yeah.
about my problems. And this made me realize that I wasn't really as honest as I thought I was.
Mm.
I was actually still denying how bad the problem was. Like, if I didn't look at the scales and if I didn't say the numbers, they would change. Um, and I was telling myself I was trying, but more often than not, I'd try for like the morning and give up in the afternoon.
Mhm.
As I got more tired, as I got more stressed through the day, I'd go from good intentions to bad actions. And for me, so when did I start? June last year.
Mm. I
Um,
think it was around June or July. Yeah.
yeah, so 120 then, 92.7 yesterday.
Wow.
Um, and I think, and it's another thing. I've always kind of in the back of my mind worried that it was an excuse. But I was talking with my doctor yesterday, and I said to her, I realized that my excuse was more than an excuse. It was an actual legitimate reason. I didn't have time
Mhm.
to make the start I needed.
Yeah.
I couldn't change everything while my stress was still up here. I
Mhm.
couldn't change anything enough while
Yeah.
my energy was still down here.
Yeah.
I need I needed the time and space to make a change.
Mhm.
Um, and that could sound really discouraging, I suppose, for people, because if they're where I was, busy, busy, busy all the time,
Mhm.
how do you make a change? Well, you have to be willing to make little changes and little gains to start with. Um, I had never taken enough confidence from those tiny gains to keep going, and I'd always run out of steam on them. But when I had to work from home, I actually found I had hours more in my day for me.
Mhm.
Um, and that was the time I needed. And, I just wish that years ago I'd done it with my holidays instead
Yeah.
of waiting for a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Because during the holidays, I've got the time. I have the time to cook. I have the time to exercise. And honestly, the the difficulties of being back at work full time are already rearing their head. You know, I can't say I've done my meal prep as well as I should have in my first couple of weeks of work. And generally speaking, I've had something I could eat at work that was healthy and fit within my food plan for the day. But at the same time, it hasn't been the best of what I could be doing. So my gains are slowing down, and I've given myself permission for that to be okay, because, you know, I made a big push. I set myself a ridiculous goal,
Mhm.
one I probably shouldn't have, that I didn't want to be over 100 anymore when I turned 34
Mhm.
last year. Not that 34 is any particular magic number, but I didn't want to be another birthday in triple figures. Um, and at that point in time, I only had, 4 months to do it,
Mhm.
to lose 20 kilos. And that was probably, um, more than was realistic. And the whole time, I have to admit, in the back of my mind, I was still going, what if this doesn't work? What if this doesn't work? But it did. It started to work.
Mhm.
And success made success more possible.
Yeah.
Every time it worked a little bit, I could keep going a little bit longer.
Mhm.
But the hardest thing was breaking the habit to start with. I literally had to throw out a whole bunch of food. I had to get rid of it from my house, because if it's in my house, I don't have the self control.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I've tried to actually go to the shops less. I've tried to write my list, go to the shops, not to stop at the shops on my way home, as much as possible, because it's just more of those chances to make the wrong choices.
Yeah.
Um, I tried to stack success on success. So I tried to make losing weight and saving money work together in a way.
Mhm.
While healthy food can be expensive, it's amazing how much you save by not having that takeout that you really, really want,
Yeah, 100%. It's so
and
true.
eating instead. It does end up adding up pretty quickly.
Mm.
Um, but I still needed to treat myself. The one thing that I did that wasn't, in our initial plans, it was probably not one of the top suggestions. I know that when we discussed it, you said, yep, that's okay, do that. But, when I first looked at the idea of the meal plans and eating plans, one of the suggestions was to limit coffee intake. And I made up my mind I was giving up so much else. And when I looked at the calories in a cup of coffee, I decided that, you know what, if I'm going to be giving up chocolate and bread, and not that I've given up bread entirely, but I certainly eat a lot less. A piece of toast here and there is what I have now in terms of that. But with everything else I was giving up, and the way that, this was a bit of protein, little bit of carbs from the lactose, but largely speaking, it was boosting what I needed, not what I didn't.
Mhm.
I decided that was going to be my bribe, my incentive. And I'm in Melbourne, so we had hard lockdown for almost 5 months
Yeah.
last year, altogether in two lots. Um, Only allowed out of the house for an hour a day. So if I didn't feel like going for a walk, the cafe down the road was my stick and my carrot. If I
Mhm.
didn't go for a walk, I couldn't have a cup of coffee because there's no way I was going to drive.
Yeah.
Um, and if I did go for a walk, I could have a nice cup of coffee. And that really helped me get moving.
Mhm.
Because exercise, as much as I've said, eating right, particularly when I'm stressed, is hard. Um, Exercise is harder for me. I'm a teacher, so I stand up a lot during the day, but I'm not necessarily moving as much as I think I am.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of teachers are in that boat. They're exhausted by the end of the day because it is more physically demanding than people might realise. But standing up doesn't actually do your body any favours. We're not made to stand all day. So I'd finish the day exhausted and not want to go for a walk. So again, lockdown kind of helped me break the back of that, because I couldn't use the excuse that I've been sitting down. So I'd go for these hour-long walks, pushing the time I was allowed out of the house to the limit. And honestly, even in the 3 weeks I've been back, I found I don't have that much time for walking anymore.
Mhm.
But it's become so much of a habit now that I walk around more at work.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to avoid going to the back and forward to the staff room, I'm more likely to take multiple trips to do things. and deliberately find a reason to, as a high school teacher, I can move around a lot more than a primary school teacher. I'm very lucky there.
Mhm.
You know, or I'll find a reason to ask them to timetable my classes across campus instead of trying to get them to timetable me in the same space, so that I'm forcing myself to move.
Mhm.
Um, I bought myself a personal taskmaster.
Oh, nice.
My Fitbit is probably one of the um, biggest helps for me as a lazy person.
Yeah.
um, because I've got it set up with all the announcements and all the reminders to move.
Mhm.
So it buzzes me every hour if I don't shift my
Mhm.
lazy backside.
Yeah.
Um, and really now that I kind of got on top of it, it's the little things that are making the difference, because I've slowed down to make more sustainable gains and to convince myself I'm not going to backslide. I've settled into a slower progress now. So
Yeah.
I did hit 100 at the end of October,
Mhm.
which was what I wanted, of course. And so I've really only lost 8 kilos since then, which
Mhm.
is a little under half a kilo a week.
Mhm.
Um, Not quite where I would have liked to be. I would have liked to have done a bit more than that to make sure I was getting the full half kilo a week, but I'm content um, with what I'm doing, because overall it's still moving in the right direction.
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, I wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
I would have been like, oh, I gained a kilo back. That's it. It's over. And really, I had this massive mental shift, and I'm sure I told you it took me a while to figure out where it came from.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, I'd been told by people before, if it's not working, you haven't made up your mind to really do it yet.
Mhm.
You haven't decided to change. And I kind of denied that. I'm like, no, I want to change. I want to change. But obviously, something internal had not shifted enough. And that shifted for me last year. Um, and it was seeing a, a lady I'd been, I have to say lady now, we're getting older, a lady I'd been to uni with 12, 13 years ago, who had always been bigger than me. And she was nearing double digits. And it kind of jolted me a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, and I've since found out from her that her journey's been a lot harder than mine.
Mhm.
And I'm not, compared to some people, my journey has been terribly easy. I've been very, very lucky. Um, you know, she went further than I did before coming back. So she was up to 100 and nearly 140
Mhm.
before she started to go down again.
Yeah.
So she's 18 months and done 40 kilos, and she's had to have significant medical intervention because she was really critically ill. And so it spurred me into movement, because I was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Secretly not knowing that she'd had to have massive medical intervention to get where she was going.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess her success inspired me, and you know, now finding out that her journey's been so hard on her, I feel a little bit guilty about that. But at the same time, you know, sometimes that's what it takes. You need an inspiration of some kind.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and all the advertising for weight loss never convinces me. The before and afters look so fake. But this was someone I knew,
Mhm.
someone I spent 4 years living with at the same boarding college for
Mhm.
uni. And you know, I knew what her lifestyle had been like and how hard it was for her to change. Um, so it came down to, well, if she can, I can. And my competitive spirit kicked in enough,
Yeah.
and my mentality changed. And like I said, I stopped being more ashamed of my numbers than I was determined to change them.
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, I cannot explain exactly how that happened, because I have been ashamed of my weight since I was about 11, 12 years old, and not wanting to tell people how much I weighed. So
Mhm.
for over 20 years, I've hidden my numbers, hidden my weight, not talked about it,
Mhm.
not, you know, um, not talked about anything but, you know, oh, I'm trying. I wish I was smaller. I
Mhm.
wish this was easier. I wish I could do it. Um, but lying and telling myself I was really trying when I wasn't putting in enough effort.
Mhm.
Um, and in some ways, it's horrible to say that you have to put in the effort because, you know, even 2 years ago, if you'd said that to me, I would have thrown my hands up in the air and gone, "What's the point? I can't. I don't have that energy. I can't make that effort."
Mm.
Um, but when it shifted, and at the time when I first contacted you, I didn't know that it had shifted. I didn't know that this was the time it was going to work. This was the time I was going to be successful. But I do know that I couldn't have done it if I'd kept on trying to do it on my own.
Yeah.
Um, and it was very hard for me to shift the mentality from lose the weight now, as in like lose as much as I can, as fast as I can, lose 20 kilos in 20 weeks type of thing,
Mhm.
um, towards where I am now, where as long as I'm still heading towards my goal, it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, so ultimately, I'd love to get down to 80 kilos, which for me would probably be about an Australian size 14.
Yeah.
Um, it's bigger than some doctors tell me I should be, but I think that's where I can comfortably keep myself instead of falling into the habit of up and down, which has plagued me,
Mhm.
more up than down,
Yeah.
um, throughout my adolescence and adult life. Um, so for me, it's been a lot of little shifts adding up, coming together at the right time,
Mhm.
and somehow finally I can do it. um, I don't know if that is more
Very cool.
more worrying to people or more encouraging to people. But yeah, it was all these little things that finally lined up for me.
Mm.
Um, and I worried over Christmas. I thought I'm going to put all this weight back on. Um, I can't say I lost weight over Christmas, but I didn't gain any.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the first time I've never gained weight at Christmas time. Um, and the other thing that I did, and this is something that I decided for myself, and I don't know where I took it from. I made a pact with myself that I haven't broken yet,
Mhm.
that I needed to make celebrations special again.
Yeah.
Like, you think back in history and like, people didn't have what we have today. And so you'd get to Christmas and they'd have a massive feast, but it was literally the only time of year that they would eat cake and rich foods. Um, so it really didn't matter. And I'd gotten into the habit of, oh, I'll just have a treat. But they weren't treats because they were daily or every second day occurrences. That's not a treat. That's a lifestyle. And so I banned cake. Um, cake is for birthdays and weddings and Christmas now.
Yeah.
It's not for other times. Um, I was very strict as I was starting out with all sugar.
Mhm.
So I didn't have chocolate or anything like that. Now I'll have a little bit, but I'm kind of at the stage where I'll buy a bag of Freddo frogs or something and I'll give them to one of my workmates and I'm like, don't let me have more than one. You look after them, because I still struggle with self-control
Yeah.
with things like chocolate, because they're made to be nice. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they're made to be addictive.
Mm.
Um, I don't buy chips anymore. I, I don't buy them. I want them. Every time I walk past them in the shop, it's a fight. But if I don't have them, I can't eat the pack.
Yeah.
And that is what I was doing before. I'd tell myself I was being good, but then I'd have a bad day and I'll just have a few chips. But it wouldn't be a few. It would end up being half a packet.
Mm.
And that's, not okay. I'm certainly more aware of what a serve is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Sorry,
cool.
I'm
That's good. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think like what's really cool with your journey is what kind of happened was that you you faced the truth, and then you face the truth, and you realize, okay, this is where I am and I can't, I think you've mentioned before, that you realize that you're kind of lying to yourself, and then you face the truth, and you're like, okay, this is the truth, this is the facts, and I'm going to move forward. Um, and then you started believing in yourself. And I think it was a mixture of two things. That probably because you joined the program, that helped, but then as well that your friend did it. So then you felt that you could do it because that she did it, which is really, really cool. And then as well, um, you had the power then to tell your colleague, no, I'm 120 kilos, get off my back, stop trying to make me eat chocolate, I'm trying to lose weight. And that also gave you power. And then you could,
Yeah.
now that you had the power, you could say no to things, that you could put people in their place, which then you got more confidence and more momentum. Do you agree?
And oh, absolutely. I didn't think of it as a power thing before. I felt like saying how much I weighed would give them power over me.
Mhm.
So when I actually finally said it and I realized it gave me power over them, well, not over them, it gave me power over myself
Yeah,
and power to stop them taking that away from me.
yeah.
Um, it's been really helpful. And like now, we've got we have luncheons and things at work, and our caterer is great. She does really healthy foods, but sometimes I'll still say no because I don't know exactly what's in it and I can't account for it.
Hmm.
So everyone else is going, oh, but it's a yogurt parfait. It's super healthy. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what kind of yogurt it is, and I don't know how much she's put in the cup. It's probably a serve and a half, but I don't know that, so I'm not going to have it. And she doesn't take any offense at that, thankfully. And some of the other people are going, oh, why is that bad? Oh, but it's yogurt. Yogurt's healthy, and so I'm passing on bits and pieces to other people, and the honest truth is most of us just have no idea how much we are endangering ourselves
Hmm.
by mindlessly consuming.
100%.
um, and we have this tendency to underestimate what we've consumed and overestimate what we've done physically,
Hmm.
and I'm the worst at that. I mean, I look at my tracker today, and I'm behind my goals for today. Not drastically so, but I'll need to take a walk when we're finished. And probably a half-hour walk will do it today. I don't need to go for those hour-long walks that it took to kickstart me. Um, but again, like I said, 2 years ago, I would have gone, but I worked all day and I stood up all day and I'm tired and I don't want to go for a walk.
Hmm.
Um, And I won't say that walking doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt as much as it used to. At 120 kilos, I knew that I was courting migraines and leg pain and all sorts of things to go exercise. I'm still dealing with some foot and leg pain that does flare up when I go too hard with my exercise. But I'm at the point now where that pain isn't worse than the pain of not doing it.
Hmm.
Um, and for now, I'm aware that there'll be times when I do backslide a little bit. There'll be times in my life, I'm sure, where I'll gain a few kilos back, but I'm determined it's never going to be more than a few.
Hmm.
It's going to be, oh, you've had an injury, you couldn't do as much as normal, but you've watched your intakes, so you're only looking at your 2 or 3 kilos up, not 20 or 30 kilos up. um, just I had to look at it in a bunch of different ways. When I stopped and thought about my goals, and I realized that what I was proposing was to lose a whole third of my body weight, um, that was like, okay, that won't help. That looks too big. I had to chunk it down into smaller bits.
Yep.
But yeah, the pain of not now, while it's mental,
Hmm.
that is worse than the pain of. So I wouldn't push through a major injury, but I pushed through the plantar fasciitis flare ups. I pushed through oh gosh, I was the worst in the past. When I had my periods, it was like, nope, can't do anything, I'm dead, I'm so tired, I don't want to do anything, just feed me chocolate. Now, even though I know it'll hurt for the first little bit, I've come to realize I will feel better for having done it later in the day, not just mentally but even physically, if I can keep going. And again, everybody's journey is different. Everybody's bodies are different. Everybody's, the reason people have gotten to the size they are, is different. My mum struggles to this day with her weight. She has had gastric sleeve surgery
Mm-hmm.
and still struggles. In fact, I think I've lost as much as she has without having surgery. So
Yeah.
she's had surgery and only lost as much as I have. She's 5'4". I'm 5'7". So she's totally different shape. It looks totally different when she loses weight. And she's much healthier than she used to be, but she still can't get past where she's got, like, she's hit a plateau and a wall, and she can't beat it at the moment. But she had a reason. She got really sick when I was a baby and developed liver disease, which then caused her to gain weight. Mm-hmm. She didn't get fatty liver, because she gained weight. She gained weight because she got a sick liver. And, she's reversing that, but, everyone's journey is different. And just because, if other people can't lose weight the way I did it exactly, or if they can't do it as fast as I did it, me at 27, me at 30 couldn't do what I did last year. It didn't work then. Whatever it was, whatever demons were in my head that I was fighting, whatever life situation I was going through, I couldn't do it then. So I guess, I want to encourage people to keep trying, because if I hadn't tried again, I would probably not be 120 kilos now. I'd probably be 135 or 140 after last year. There's so many things that it takes to come together. And I didn't have, people weren't unsupportive, but I didn't really have a support network. I live on my own. My family lives interstate. I don't have a partner. The flip side of that is I don't have children to keep me busy either, so I can focus a little bit more on myself than say the mums out there can. But it also meant that there's no one on site to hold me accountable until I joined the program. And, in some ways, yeah, it's nice to have your friends be accountable, but I didn't have any close friends who were going through what I was going through. The girl I house shared with for years and years, she would make comments about how fat she was getting, and she was, she just had to go and buy size 12 jeans, but she'd always been a twig. So, so she didn't understand when I was like, I'm going through this. It wasn't that she wasn't supportive. She just didn't know how to support my exact problems. I've got another friend who has exactly the opposite problem. She cannot gain weight because she's got autoimmune disease, and she is skinny. So she could understand fighting weight problems, but what she has to do and what I have to do don't mesh. But having someone I could just talk to every couple of weeks, I could read the messages, and I certainly do. I'm not great at contributing to chats and things like that. If I'm not busy when I get the initial message, I'll do something. But if I see it and I'm doing something at the time, I always forget to come back and add. But I've taken a lot from being a part of the group and seeing the messages, and particularly seeing like the little advice to do the small things, because the small things have turned into a big thing for me. Yeah. Honestly, there was nothing huge. There was nothing huge. It was just all the little things that I could finally do simultaneously. And I guess, the really big thing was the reality of realizing just what I was doing that was, I don't even know how to explain it. Putting numbers to my intake of things. Not hiding my eating. I'd developed really bad habits when I was in a share house. I'd hide food from my housemates, and so I'd eat in private, and that wasn't great. And it became sneaky secret calories that I didn't even realize I was eating. And just those little tips of and tricks that pop up, and it's things like the tiny things that technically we know, but we haven't necessarily made a part of our life. Yeah. Just little things like, don't eat it from the packet, put it on a plate, don't guess. You won't guess right. Weigh it. Even if you've weighed it every day this week, weigh it, because you'll probably guess wrong if you don't. Um, you know, I didn't put enough store in those before. I knew them, but I hadn't made them a part of my life. And they started off being tricky and time consuming and sometimes a bother. Like sometimes I'd be like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to do this. But they've gotten easier and easier. And, I don't have to check labels of everything that shops anymore because I know what to pick up. I know which brands I can buy. I do have my sneaky corners that I cut, being on my own and being time poor when I'm at work. My absolute favourite brand of anything is the Simply Natural single frozen meals. I don't know if you get those in New Zealand. Do you have Simply Natural?
Don't think so, no.
It's your lean cuisine, your Weight Watchers type of frozen meals.
Yeah, we've got Weight Watchers.
The Simply Natural brand is really good because they've got lots of like high level nutrients in them. And you can pick your high protein or your high fiber or whatever, and they're very carefully measured. And the only thing I'll do to them, because I used to be like, oh, they're okay, but then I'm hungry, so I'd eat them, but then I'd go and eat more later. But I'd be like, well, I was good, so now I can have some biscuits, or now I can have some chips, or whereas now I'm more likely to steam some extra veggies to throw through it because that's what I should be filling up on.
Very cool. Awesome. So if you had one advice for someone on their journey to double digits, what would be that one message you would give them? Dum dum dum.
It's worth doing the things that are annoying you right now. Whatever it is that today you didn't feel like doing, like it was too hard, if you don't do it today, it's harder tomorrow. If you do it today, it's easier tomorrow. And I actually stopped trying to diet weeks and months in advance. I'm a bit of a planner. Like, I keep a budget for a whole year and try to stick to it. And I generally do. Didn't work for me with food. I do a little bit of meal prep because that certainly helps. Like if I'm chopping up veggies for one meal, I'll chop up extras so I don't have to next time. But I stopped trying to guess where I'd be at the end of the week. I stopped trying to predict what my weight would be. Yeah. And instead I just went, what are my calories for this meal? Oh, I've got 400 calories I can play with this meal. I need to have X amount of protein. Measure it, do it. And if, I could just guess, no, do it now. And doing, taking it one thing at a time. So one task at a time instead of trying to look to my end goal. And I know that sounds funny because we do need goals. We need something to aim for. But I got further when I stopped looking at the end goal and looked at the exact thing I was doing right then and there.
Yeah.
I think that helped.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think it's like that. It's like 10% you want to look at the past, 20% you want to look at the future, and then the 70% is like the now. That's like how you move forward quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah, honestly, that helped for exercise as well. Instead of going, I'll go for a walk later, I started going, no, I've got an hour break right now before I've got to do my next work meeting. Go now. Don't wait till later because you don't know if you'll be able to later. You don't know if it's going to rain. You don't know if you're going to feel sick. If you can go now, go now. So I think I'm living more in the moment because honestly, this past weekend has not been my best weekend of my journey. It's been a bit harder than some of the others. But I don't feel like a failure like I would have in the past. I'm not worried that I'm going to weigh more than I should at my next weigh-in. Oh gosh, that's something. I beat my scale addiction. Um,
Good.
a few years, I think I mentioned that when I first joined, I had thrown my scales out because I was weighing myself daily. Not that I was particularly doing anything that would have helped me see improvement, but just obsessively, I was watching the numbers creep up.
Hmm.
And so I binged them. And so when you asked me to do my first weigh, I literally had to go to the shops and buy a set of scales because I didn't have any. And I didn't know exactly what I weighed before I stood on it. The last weigh-in I had was from my endocrinologist, and that had been about 3 months before. Um, so that's actually the doctor I saw yesterday. I finally got an appointment with her after more than 12 months, and she didn't recognize me in the
Wow.
waiting room because the last time she'd seen me, I was 118 kilos. So, yeah, it was really nice to shock her in the good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
She actually said to me that she was prepared for a complete COVID meltdown and for me to be a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. So, um,
That's
yeah.
good. That's awesome.
Um, it's a little bit separate to the program, but the other thing that I had to do to manage this is I had to deal with other health problems. I didn't have anything like what my mum has dealt with in her life, but I do have anxiety,
Hmm.
and I couldn't get on top of weight problems until I got on top of my mental health.
Yeah.
And it took a few years for the doctors to get the right program, the right treatment in place for me to manage it so that I wasn't constantly living in the future. But that helped, recognizing that my body was fighting me a bit. Hormonally, my body doesn't want me to lose weight. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which makes it harder.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that was part of the reason that I'd gotten into the habit of lying to myself, because I had an excuse. I had the perfect excuse not to succeed.
Mhm.
Oh, well, you've got this, you can't. And it became, you don't have to, because you can blame it on that. And I don't think I stopped blaming it immediately. But again, having a management plan for that and for the anxiety meant that when everything lined up and I was ready to do this right, I wasn't fighting against extra factors. So if there is something else that you're trying to manage, don't neglect that. The
Mhm.
number of doctors I've seen who said, "Oh, your anxiety will go away if you didn't have body image issues, if you weren't overweight." The number of doctors who've just looked at me and said, "Oh, you wouldn't have your polycystic ovarian syndrome wouldn't give you problems if you weren't overweight, so just lose weight." Well, no, I had to manage those
To be able to.
as well to be able to manage my weight. I had to be doing something about those as well. So it's not necessarily don't try the weight loss journey. Forget weight loss, health. Don't try to get healthy until you've done those things, but make sure that dealing with those things is a part of your journey.
Mm.
Otherwise, they will rear up, and when you have a bad weekend, you won't bounce back. It won't be, a little slip. It won't be, you know you can't do what you wanted to because you've torn something in your knee. So it'll become, oh well, you can't go out because you've torn something in your knee, so let's put your knee up and let's watch a movie. And oh well, we're watching a movie, so let's eat popcorn, and we're eating popcorn, so let's put butter on it. And just like it was the little things that I had to start getting right, it's the little things that are so easy to start getting wrong. And if you haven't dealt with the other problems you're facing, it's just too easy to slip those things through, I think.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and there's no fix. I still have bad days with my anxiety, um, but it's knowing that right now I can fix now. I can't fix then. I can't predict tomorrow, but I can stop doing what I was doing, like literally a minute ago. I can put down the chips. I can walk away from the processed foods in the shops and not purchase them now.
Mhm.
Um, and that will be enough, because if I can do it now, and I can do it now,
Mhm.
and I can do it now, I only ever have to do it for like 1 minute or 2 minutes, or it's not forever.
Yeah.
It's just right now,
Yeah.
and every time you win, it gets easier.
100%. Wow. Very cool. It's very cool. You can control, like you can't, the past has already happened. the future is uncertain, but what you can control is, as you said, now. Very cool. Well, thank you for talking to us. It's incredible, your journey and everything, the insight you gave us, especially like because your one was especially like a mental. There's a lot of a mental battle as well, um, which is really really cool. I feel like this would be very helpful for the other ladies in the program because the whole message with double digit coaching is having the mindset needed to break the cycle and get to the double digits, and it's exactly what you did.
And don't be ashamed if you aren't at that mindset yet. I wasn't for years. And, honestly, while I can tell you lots of little things, I can't exactly explain why it clicked over to the right mindset. But if you keep on trying, you'll be trying when it does,
Yeah.
and you'll start to succeed.
Mm.
Honestly, I did not believe it for the first maybe month. I didn't believe anything would change. And so, I'm as pleasantly surprised as anyone that it has. And I'm determined not to go back because I don't want to be as unhappy as I was anymore. It hasn't miraculously fixed my life. It hasn't miraculously fixed everything else, but I'm certainly happier and I can certainly do more. As I've said, I'm a school teacher. We've got swimming carnival tomorrow. And I'm going to be dressing up as a jar of Vegemite. Um, but I'm not worried about the carnival and the costumes like I was last year.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the fact that I'm going to have to race the Year 12 girls because we always have a staff versus students. And I always worried about it because while I knew I could swim and I could swim faster than them, I also looked like a whale. And while I'm not tiny, I'm still big. I'm not worried the way I was. So yeah, I'm hoping that will just drive me on to further success.
That's awesome. That's so good. Wow, incredible. Incredible. Well, I'm super proud of you,
Thank
and
you.
just keep up the amazing work, and I know you'll get to your next goal, and you'll keep on smashing it. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll try to post more in the group about where I'm up to. I'm not good at pics. I know a lot of people do before and after pics, but I was so horrified with myself. I didn't take any before pics, so I don't have them. And honestly, looking back, the only thing that tells me now is the difference in my clothes, which is great. But yeah, it's something I'll try and keep talking about with you guys and let you know where I'm up to. I'm hoping by the time I hit the 1 year mark that I hit that goal of 80 kilos.
Yeah,
That is phenomenal.
that was so good. And you can even take maybe a before and after of the clothes or something.
Yeah, me in the ridiculously overlarge clothes
Yeah,
now. There are a few things that I'm going to have to throw in the bin.
so good, so good. Well, you enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you so much again. And yeah, as I said, I'm super proud of you. So
No worries. Thank
thank you.
you. Sorry for the rambling, everybody. I'm a bit like that.
The rambling's good. There was a lot of gems in that. So yeah, that was really really good. I reckon everyone needs to watch this interview. It's really good.
Okay.
Sweet.
Well, thank
Well,
you for asking me and giving me a chance to share.
you're welcome. Of course, of course. Well, I reckon eventually what we'll do is like everyone who's gotten to the double digits, we should just have like a full on like huge interview. It'd be pretty cool. Just an idea I had. Sweet
It's
as.
probably a good idea. I'm sure we've all gotten here a different way,
Hmm.
and that'll probably help a lot of people like me who failed lots of times before to try again, because maybe it doesn't mean they can't. It just means they haven't found the right thing yet.
Yeah. 100%. And like sometimes, you need like because failure is just feedback. It's just data that you need to change a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and all those times it was just feedback. And as you said, that you had knowledge before that you could use on this journey. But
Mm.
if you then failed, 6 times beforehand and you didn't know that little tip that helped you so much about nutrition, it wouldn't have helped you this time. Would actually were you able to push forward and break through the
Yeah.
cycle, you know?
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you so much again, and you take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. See you later.
Bye.